Nation. This is Anthony Lauer, art and design teacher at Rufus King High School, and you're listening to the King's Cast, a podcast introducing our listeners to the men and women working each day to teach the next generation of Rufus King generals. Today we're talking about theater with Erica Allemang-Reinke, affectionately known as Miss A. She is one of our theater teachers, a coach for our award-winning forensics teams, the lead superfan organizing our annual Pink Games in support of breast cancer research, and one of the newest teachers to lead our Link Crew and Freshman Bridge program. We will also discuss how the International Baccalaureate program aims to develop King students into inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring individuals who strive to create a better and more peaceful world. Thanks for taking a few minutes to listen today. Good morning, Erica. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm trying to run down this week and enjoy Friday
Absolutely.
as the weekend comes around. As I mentioned in the intro, you teach theater and run quite a few organizations and pretty much help champion our school spirit here at King. But would you give us a little bit more specification on your content area and the classes you teach?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for that introduction. That was great. Listen to all the things I do. I'm like, my gosh, how do I do that? Anyways,
Coffee? At least that's how I do it.
Unfortunately, I can't drink caffeine, so no clue how I do it.
No bueno.
But I'm here. Oh, no, I don't have kids. That's what it is. Okay. So I teach theater here.
Or a couple hundred that you work
Exactly.
with 9 months out of the year.
I teach the MYP program of theater because we also have an IB upper level theater course, but I teach acting and play production. So the behind the scenes stuff for kids and also getting them used to being in front of an audience and public speaking type stuff. So those are the classes I teach.
Excellent. So what brought you to Rufus King High School?
So funny thing, I student taught here in 2008, and it was kind of a fluke because my original high school that I was supposed to student teach at dropped out weeks before I had to student teach, and so King brought me in, and I was with the wonderful Adam Jacoby, if many other King alumni will know of him. And
I actually think I just showed him yesterday in the Throwback Thursday social media post.
Yeah.
Because it was... I just wanted to highlight Teachers for Teacher Appreciation Week next week, because next week's throwback is going to be to prom. Because prom's coming.
Nice. Yeah.
So I thought, whatever. Anyways, he was on there.
No, he's great. So I learned a lot of amazing things from him. I fell in love with this school. I fell in love with the diversity of this school, the school spirit of this school, and I wanted to work here so bad. So I continued applying for years and years, and finally in 2013, I got in.
Persistence.
Yes.
Excellent. What is one aspect of the IB that you connect with?
So a big aspect of the IB program is risk-taking, for sure. Being a theater teacher, these kids are already walking in and like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to perform in front of everyone. I have stage fright. I hear that all the time. I have stage fright. They don't even know what stage fright is because they just are telling themselves that. And I always go, hey, you can drop my class and take another elective, but I guarantee you're going to walk out of here a different person than you were when you walked in. I'm like, it's all about taking risks, and you're going to feel so great when you finally go up there and do that and realize that this is something I have to do your entire lives when like you have to try to sell a product if you're an entrepreneur, or job interviews, or you can't
going on a date, trying to get into college,
absolutely,
presenting at a funeral.
And or for my athletes too, because I got a lot of athletes in my classes, which is great. I'm like, y'all are out in the basketball court or the football field acting a fool, right, with your arms up, you hit a three and all that, and then they come in my class and they're shy as ever, and I'm like, what are you going to do when you get interviewed if you want to make it, out in public? So risk-taking is definitely one of my biggest things. Or,
again, we praise influencers and YouTubers and Instagrammers. You want that goal, well, you also have to be a risk-taker and put yourself out there. Those people are probably introverts. But once the camera's on and they're alone with it, they can be as charming or as witty as they want, but they took that risk.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I had a bunch of parents over conferences that I'm like, oh, your kid needs to speak up. She's shy. But she's on that TikTok all the time and making her videos. I'm like, it's different when you're alone and when you're in front of a group of people.
It's like being able to sing in the shower and not sing in front of your class.
Pretty much.
Yeah, similar stuff happens obviously in the art program where kids, I can't draw. They don't even know before they come in if they can or not, because they don't know it's a skill, similar to not really knowing what stage fright is. But then we get into critique, and even the most outgoing kid doesn't want to stand up and show his artwork. And come on, we got to pull that out of you. Again, you guys are doing it online. You guys thumbs up and like and tell each other your opinions online, and sometimes anonymously, sometimes not. And obviously, it's easier to be anonymous, even though we teach digital citizenship and try to get our students to be as forthcoming as possible. But that's judging. That's giving feedback. That thumbs up. I mean, I literally once printed off, and some of the support staff helped me cut them out. Thumbs up and
to put
hearts.
Up
and then the kids were to tack them onto the artwork.
That's pretty cool.
As a way of critiquing. We called it a real life Instagram.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I even made little word bubbles and laminated them so you could use dry erase markers.
Dope. Yeah.
So if you ever want to do that, I have all that stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We made it probably 6-7 years ago.
That's so cool though. But same with what you're saying with I can't draw and I can't act and all that. I always tell my kids that that negative energy is like a cancer, and if you keep saying it and saying it over, it's going to stick because it's easier to say I can't than I can.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. At that point, you are just telling yourself no and not opening up your mind and taking that risk to try to learn and grow.
For sure.
We digress. In your classes, do you have a favorite unit, topic, or project that you teach?
Absolutely, and I'm in it right now. Just started it last week, and it is storytelling. So storytelling I always save at the end of my acting classes because it's more vulnerable for the kids, because I always tell them the hardest actor they'll ever have to be in their life is themselves. So they've been characters. They've been characters from movies, plays, TV shows, characters that created on their own. But what's our story? So I always start it with Mr. Rogers' quote, where it's you can't not learn to love something about someone once you've heard their story. And that was a little quote he kept in his back pocket. So I'm like, we don't have to be best friends. We don't have to all love and like each other, but we can learn to respect and understand someone once you hear their story. So I started out really slow, like we did like riddles where they had to story tell with their voice. We're now talking about how lyrics tell stories and how to tell if someone's telling the truth or lying to you. And we're going to end it with everyone writing their story, like what makes them who they are anonymously. And I mix them all up and give other people someone else's story. And it's crazy seeing your story told through someone else's perspective.
Did you say, maybe I missed it, I apologize, they're writing a monologue essentially?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's going to be a one-man show, maybe 3 paragraphs or 2 pages worth of dialogue, telling your own story, then someone interprets it and tries to tell
Absolutely.
it? Or is it a cold read?
No, they have to memorize it.
And put their own spin on it.
As if it is their story, because they are performing something that's real, not something that's scripted. And one of the most powerful things is when we're done with this, I go, okay, raise your hand if you connected to anyone's story. And nearly the entire class raises their hand. So it's like, we're not alone. There's some things that a lot of kids let out that are deep with this. Of course, I know whose story is whose because I have to grade them. So I, take a piece of paper, put your name on it, and rip it off. But it's really cool to just... Oh, then I always ask them too, is this a lesson you guys could have done the first week of school coming in here? And they're like, absolutely not, right? So you have to get to know I'm all about relationship and getting to know the people in your class, for sure.
I try to remind myself what it was like to be a teenager. I think you once told me that, you try to walk into the classroom and remember what it's like from the student's perspective. And just this week, again, that happened. We were doing our painting critiques out in the hall with my 2D students, and they did portraits.
Yeah, was that yesterday, third hour? Because I was hearing clapping.
No, that's right, yeah.
I was hearing a lot of clapping, yeah.
And they were discussing skin tone, one of the hardest things to match.
Absolutely.
But it takes iteration, it takes practice, and you can't just pull it out of a jar. It doesn't happen. Although nowadays, a lot of companies, even Crayola right behind you is a set of skin tone Crayola markers.
Oh, yeah, I heard about those.
But and I have colored pencils as well, but they certainly aren't making paints yet, although you can get makeup. But I said, but that's just it, guys. We've all had that. We all struggled with painting the nose. We all struggled with mixing the skin tone. I mean, I did a live demo for the students. The viewers can't see, but Erica can see here in the classroom. And I said, guys, we all struggled at this. This is why we do critique, to remind ourselves that the person at the table next to us also had a hard time.
Exactly.
Or they might have a tip to help with how to paint hair, or how did they tackle making the lips. This is what critique's about, and it's hard to get them to open up, and I need to remind myself constantly what it was like to be a teenager. We're all introverted, even the biggest fool that likes to goof off in class. does that as a defense mechanism at times. But again, way off topic.
We digress.
What advice do you have about attending school or Rufus King?
Excuse me. So this is actually perfect timing for this too. I was just on Facebook yesterday, and there was a post on like an MPS page about my daughter. She's going into 10th grade, and she loves. She wants to have a school with a sports environment, with a forensics team, with all these other things. She's very outgoing, but she also, has a DHH. She needs a DHH teacher, and I'm like, oh my gosh, King is absolutely perfect for this.
That checks all 3 boxes,
yeah.
all 4.
Oh, yeah. So, like, the comments on this, it was like 30, 40, 50 comments where it was like battling between, like, King, not MSL, King, High School of the Arts, and Reagan, and Golda, and all these. And, like, everyone's, like, fighting for King. They're like, no, if you want all of these, you get... And with that and seeing, like, all the other people talk about King, I'm like, man, they got it right. King is going to give you that whole high school experience. And not only is it going to give you that whole high school experience, you're going to be surrounded by people who don't look like you and people that do look like you, because it's so diverse. That's what made me fall in love with this school. I mean, you have some club or something for everything you want to do. So to come in here, you have to be prepared, again, to be vulnerable, but you also have to be prepared to, expose yourself and take risks in the millions amount of activities that we have. Yeah. And the other thing was that she liked track and field, and I'm like, okay, you're coming to King. Just PM me, we'll get you in.
If this is episode 4, and if we are starting to get listeners that are listening to what we're doing, I'm sure it's going to come across as some kind of big old marketing ploy, and I'll be honest, that's kind of where it's supposed to start, is that we're trying to let the community know a little bit more about King, but not in a, we're just going to sit here and give all this praise. And I'm hoping that as listeners have gone through these episodes, they're gaining some of the organic way that this comes in, and this is just another example. I was recording an episode yesterday with Miss Bousseau, and it's hard as a teacher here to not talk about the great experiences we've had or the knowledge we've gained of King's reputation in the city.
For sure.
The legacy that happens generation after generation. And it sounds like complete marketing garbage. But I hope it's coming across as authentic, because these are the things. You're talking about what's happening online with people trying to figure out which school to attend. And again, these podcasts aren't meant to be a marketing tool to get people to come here, but more so for people to make informed decisions on what's actually happening here.
Yep.
Going back to the idea of putting ourselves in student shoes or parents' shoes, that big decision of where to send your kids, King is a bit of a mystery in that regard, as most schools are. You get those highlights. We're diverse. We have over 60 sports and activities, all those little talking points. But my hope here is to humanize us as staff, because I think if you do come to King and you didn't have an older brother or a parent or an uncle or aunt or a neighbor that came to King and can give you a little bit of an understanding, we're just teachers until you get into our classrooms to really truly get to know us and to hopefully see the authentic passion that oozes out of the majority of us in this building that have grown into this culture after hearing about the reputation. But then the second we're in the door, it just becomes part of life here.
Very much. And of course, it's not always sunshines and rainbows, but that's, every teacher in the entire world would say that. You have your good days and you have your bad days, but you allow those good days to outweigh the bad days and not let the bad days define you.
Yeah, you hope for those glimmering moments. I think the cliche out there is, if I just affect one kid, it makes it all worth it. No, that's not sustainable. But if every couple weeks you get this aha moment or you get this passionate drive. Yesterday I stumbled on the stage and there were some kids working with the microphone. I was like, oh, I hope Mr. Zaber knows you're on stage working with the sound system. Oh yeah, we're running the talent show, Mr. Lauer. You should come next Friday. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Yeah. Students decided they wanted a talent show and they organized a talent show. And now during their study hall, they're prepping and getting ready to MC it. Like, we got Ethnic Fest coming up. Like, it's just the
been so long for Ethnic Fest. I'm so excited.
I know. And as I said earlier to you about being slightly out of shape, that's one of my favorite things is Ethnic Fest. I'm so glad it's back because the amount of delicious food.
And I get to smell it across from my room all day.
The gyros, the crab ragout, to watch the students come out and do henna tattooing, like, just
And only one group of kids knows Ethnic Fest, and that's seniors because of COVID.
Because they saw it their freshman year.
This is continuing the tradition from hopefully
now
this
on,
is
that hard reset we were talking about a couple weeks ago, that this was our opportunity after the COVID-19 shutdown and over a year of not being in the building and not having culture, school culture, that is, not becoming Rufus King generals, that we have this hard reset this year that we can kind of show everybody the best of what we have, and Ethnic Fest, as well as our numerous culture clubs.
Oh, all the clubs, yeah.
That we've been able to have. The BSU put on Black History Month. They have Dia de los Muertos, or the Hispanic Heritage program on Dia de los Muertos, and Asian Awareness coming up in the end of April. Those are just the things that help to champion.
And so many kids are involved. I swear I've signed 100 field trip slips for Monday. I feel like everyone in my class is doing something.
Yeah, no, I
whether
felt
they're
bad
dancing,
I started
whether
accidentally forgetting the hour, so I'm signing on somebody else's hour. I'm like, tell your fifth hour teacher I apologize. Yeah. For your classes, the fourth standard students are graded on is called responding, similar because we're both teaching MYP art. Could you talk about how you prepare your students to be evaluated in this standard and how students respond to the works of drama in your class?
So responding is probably the easiest one to put grades in for, because I do so many critiquing, just like you do in art. I do a lot of self-assessment.
So a lot of clapping, like you heard on Hall Duty.
Self-assessment is huge. That's one of the 10 elements of acting in that every great actor uses. They have to critique themselves and look inside themselves to see how they can do better, right? And not only self-assessing themselves or responding that way, but watching pieces of work and responding to each other. I always have us give props after performances and be like, okay, who does anyone want to give props to? Oh, I really like, I can really tell that so-and-so has improved in their confidence.
Sorry, I just went back to high school theater class myself with Miss Fig and literally handing props to people.
Oh, props.
Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry,
those I talk about as well.
That's a 1990s term. Props, man. Props on those kicks.
Which is short for properties in play production. But anyways, so definitely with the critiquing and with the self-assessment and with my props that people give.
We'll move on. We could go so many different avenues. Again, thank you so very much. I enjoy thoroughly talking to you. I thoroughly enjoy talking to you. I
can do this all day.
Hey. So at the end of these, I've been asking teachers to share a closing thought or a quote or a book recommendation that they might want to offer up there for our listeners, our students, our families.
Well, I'm going to use one that you've been bringing up a lot, which is great because I also have it as my signature in my email, and one of the great teachers here that I think everyone loves. I really haven't heard anyone say anything bad about Mr. Makut. He is, another person that just people know in the building. So he told me once when I was having a rough time my first couple years here that he said, Miss A, the best teachers remember what it's like to be students. Yeah. So when you are frustrated over someone not doing your assignment, or when you're frustrated for someone not participating and you think it's you, it's not you. It's you have to put yourself in their shoes, and maybe they need a little bit more time. Maybe you need to talk to them individually. Think about what you would want from your teacher when you were that age. And since then, relationships have just developed with kids. Like I have so many kids that I talk to that are alumni. I mean, maybe that I see in certain places, but they're over 21. All right, I run into them at those places. And,
out in the city.
Yeah. And, hang out and still talk that way. So, like, those relationships really mean the most, especially because I don't have kids of my own. So, I kind of just have
you get
thousands and thousands of them.
Year, yeah. And compound that times, I think, 17, 18-year career.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm on 15.
15? Oh, that low.
I started in 2008, but I taught elementary my first 2 years.
Okay. This is 17 for me.
But a cool thing about elementary is I taught at Elm Creative Arts Elementary, which was a feeder elementary school for here.
That's off of Van Buren, by St. John's.
Mm-hmm, so
I always wanted to get in there. My sister went to St. John's.
It was a wonderful elementary experience.
I always wanted to see the building because the beautiful mural on the back.
Yes. So my first 2 years here at King, 2-3, I had kids I taught in elementary school and at King. I mean, there were like 30, 40 of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got full circle of them. So that was pretty cool.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you again. It's
Absolutely.
been great. Again, we both know we could talk for hours and hours.
Absolutely. That's why we're in the arts.
But yeah, exactly. It's that what's perceived as the extrovert of being in the arts. But you have a great rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, Rufus King Nation builders. I wanted to thank you for taking the time today to listen to our 4th King's Cast podcast, introducing our community to the staff working daily in the halls of Rufus King High School to support our student generals. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation about life at Rufus King with one of our most involved educators, Erica Allemang-Reinke. After today's conversation, I am more pumped and filled with the King spirit. That said, please join us again next month as we sit down with another Rufus King staff member to discuss how they bring the International Baccalaureate to life in our classrooms.